I had 8 credit cards.
8 credit cards?
I got injured there from one of the dogs. I tore my bicep breaking up a dog fight.
Oh my God.
And I didn't have insurance.
That's a death sentence in this country.
And every dog that I had was dangerous.
Holy shit. Nick, you didn't learn your lesson the first time around? Oh boy, don't swim with cocaine. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
So if you wouldn't mind just kind of introducing yourself to the audience and a little bit about yourself and your background.
Oh, sure. My name is Nick, and I work in the dog business.
When you say work in the dog business, what do you mean exactly?
Training and hiking.
Training and hiking.
Correct.
The dogs, right? That is.
Unless, somebody wants to learn how to surf on the hills, they could do that.
Awesome. And how is all that going? How is the business going for you?
Not great, but it can be potential. Some months are better than other months, and some aren't, So I've just had some pitfalls.
Okay.
Throughout, my entire life, so.
How long have you been doing this dog business for?
15 years.
How many bad months would you say out of those 15?
Probably half.
Probably half. Half of the 15 years have been bad.
Correct.
Is this a business that you started, or did you buy someone else out, or?
Both. Yeah,
okay.
I started one with myself, and then I met another dog trainer, and we failed miserably together and fought and almost killed each other. So.
How you got onto this idea for this business, and then just kind of walk me through how you went about it, how you started it, kind of just a little summary.
Oh, sure. Always loved dogs, still do.
Okay.
Started volunteering for a very dangerous pit bull rescue. Dangerous dogs. Mm-hmm. And as I was volunteering, then you just start getting a skill of working with dangerous dogs. And so I thought, well, aside from surfing, which I don't make much money in, why don't I just try a dog business?
You started this on your own, or was this the one you...
I started it on my own at first.
Okay.
And then I met this other dog trainer, and then we went down this violent, horrible financial ruin road.
Did you bootstrap it? Did you have family helping you out? How'd you get the funding for the business?
My father passed away a few years ago. Left me and my 2 sisters $29,000 exactly, and I thought, I'll get out of debt, which, half of it went to all my credit card debt from the other ventures.
That's a good thing. Pay down your credit card debt. Don't carry that as much as possible. So that's really good. So half of it went to the credit card debt, you said, and then the other half into the business.
Correct.
I don't really know what goes into a dog business like this. So can you just kind of walk me through what some of the costs were? What were you spending this money on?
Sure. I got a job training a pit bull mix, and I was training the pit bull mix. The mother of the pit bull, the mom, and her actual mom lived in this area in Burbank known as the Equestrian Center. And they had horses, and all the horses passed away, and they had all this land, an acre and a half of land, and that was going to waste. And I got this bright idea.
Dogs.
That I could put 50 dogs here.
That's one way to look at empty land. I like the way you think. I like that. Most people, they see empty land in the business world, they're like buildings. So you spent most of the money on the land to acquire them?
Oh yeah, I had to pay rent.
Okay.
So, and her husband didn't like me for some unknown reason, and so he had the rent a little bit higher than I could afford.
Oh, Jesus.
But I said, you know what? I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to do this.
Did you have any money left over for any of the other expenses? Were there any other expenses? You got the land. Walk me through then.
Once I got the land,
Yeah.
I had to clear it out.
Okay.
Did that mainly with the other owner who I was training her dog. And then had to buy fencing. And so I went through 3 different fencing guys. And the first guy was awful. He was a word-of-mouth guy, which I thought word-of-mouth is the best way to go. And it is.
Yeah.
This guy was more of a handyman than a guy who could put up a fence. And it went way over what it was supposed to. And the day I was supposed to open, I wasn't able to open.
That's rough.
I lost a bunch of money those days because it just kept going. It went like a week past, and his overhead kept going higher. So I had to pay him more money because I couldn't figure out how to put up a fence.
Wait, did you at some point say, you're putting up a fence, bro? Like, why am I paying more and more and more for a fence? Like,
oh, I thought of that a lot. And he, I felt the client that recommended him, I didn't want to look bad in front of her. So,
but if you're losing money like that, you got to sometimes swallow it and just look bad.
You would think. I just kept going with this guy, and it just kept getting worse.
So by the time you opened, how much money did you have left?
It was probably about $3,000 or $4,000 left.
$3,000 or $4,000. Okay.
It was a lot of material for fences.
Yeah, it sounds like you could have opened a fence business at this point with like the amount you've spent on the fencing in the land. Now, do you think $3,000 or $4,000 is enough to kind of open a business like this?
Not at all.
No, but you decided to still go right.
I was in so deep, I had no choice. I had to dive in, and I was stuck with all this fence and all these, 3 different yards. And then I had to hire 2 other legitimate fence guys, and they had to fix the problem.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the sunk cost fallacy hit you, You're like, I've spent all this time and all this money already.
Can't go back now.
Yeah, it kind of like a kid who spends 4 years in undergrad and then just decides he doesn't want to go to med school after being pre-med. But, they just go through with it because they've spent all this time and all this money. Did you ever see like any red flags like pop up when you're like, I only have $3,000 or $4,000 and we just opened? Like,
oh yeah, there was plenty of red flags.
Yeah.
And, pushback from, the landlords because they knew how much money I spent. And then it got worse because it was an outdoor dog daycare.
Yeah.
And every dog that I had was dangerous.
Holy shit. It's a lot of, if I was the landlord, I'd be like, this is a lot of red flag. The dogs are dangerous dogs. And then also, did Nick just spend this many thousands of dollars on fencing? You opened the store. Walk me through what happened. Walk me through.
Well, finally, after the correct fencing came in,
yes,
the clients started coming in, which was good. I had a few, and some of the ones that I had from the past. And so with dangerous dogs, mainly pit bulls that I had, because of volunteer working at a pit bull rescue, most of the owners were a little hesitant on showing up there because they would see these dangerous dogs. And so people would go elsewhere.
This is such an interesting business model. Like the danger is inherent in your business model, and you knew that you were going to limit your customer base with just the danger of having a business model being centered around dangerous dogs, and you were just like, that's all good, right?
Yeah, and I did have a few decent smaller dogs.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, one of them got attacked by one of the bad dogs.
Oh my God.
And it was $1,000 in damage to the dog.
What? Really?
I still have the scar, as a matter of fact, from breaking up that fight.
Oh my God, that's insane. That is insane. How do you feel about the business trajectory at that point? Do you think it's going where you want it to go, or are you having kind of second doubts? What's happening there?
I mean, I kind of had a feeling just because I was not getting the clients that I was hoping. And to make the problem worse, it was the hottest year in like LA history. And I opened right during that time. And so every time that I was trying to get business, I would walk the dogs down the street and it was like 105 degrees. And I couldn't hand out any flyers or talk to anybody.
That's crazy.
And this would happen every day.
That's really rough. Well, at least you didn't do that annoying thing where people go and they put flyers on people's cars, or they do the sticky ones where they stick a flyer on someone's car. But I appreciate you not doing that, putting stickers on people's cars. You didn't do that, did you?
The thought crossed my mind.
Oh, no.
I was so desperate for business, but I went to apartment complexes instead, and I would ask the security guys if I could do that.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
Some receptive, most weren't. So I would just stand in front, mind you, with the bad, dangerous dogs. And so when people would come out of there with dogs, they would go the other direction. And I had no other choice.
You had the dogs with you.
I figured it was better than me just standing there with a flyer. Because if they would actually see me with dogs, they would think it was legit. But being the not so intelligent guy that I am, I didn't figure that they would look at these dogs and go the other direction. But after a few times, I figured this out.
I mean, I feel like if you're selling something like TVs, I want to see the merchandise, that makes sense. Maybe bring the TV with you. But if you're selling something or your business is centered around dangerous dogs, maybe I don't want to see them right there with you. Yeah. That's but if you ever do sell appliances and stuff, take them with you.
Oh, sure.
They do want to see them. Did you have people like around you in your support network saying like, hey, this is a good idea, keep going? Or was it just you kind of like trying to bust down doors and still make this happen? Were people encouraging you, discouraging you?
A little both. I mean, some people wanted me to succeed, and so, which was good, but the other people would talk about it at the dog park where I'd go to, and then go, dangerous dogs, super hot. I don't think it's going to make it. And I heard that a lot, and it was legit, and I just kept going. I had no choice. I signed onto this land, and I just kept losing money, and I couldn't find anybody to work for me.
Okay.
So I put out an ad, and I would have, for some reason, it was all women.
Yeah.
And everybody who would show up would walk in, and after 5 minutes, they would go, these are the dogs that I'd be helping you with. And every one of them walked out.
And did you kind of think of maybe getting like into different dogs at that point?
I mean, I was trying, but my reputation with the bad dogs preceded me. So, I had 2 legitimate dogs. And then when the one got attacked, it was game over.
Yeah.
And it was awful. I had 1 multi-poo. That was the only one.
So you were blacklisted by the good dogs, and all you could get were the low-end, bad, dangerous dogs. Okay. How much were you bringing in? How much were you spending? Just walk me through some of your costs and figures here.
It was the rent, which was the most. I did spend a lot of the money for the overhead.
Okay. How much was that?
It was probably $8,000.
Sorry, what was that again?
$8,000.
$8,000
with the labor and all the material that I had spent.
Is this per month or?
That was the chunk that I had to spend as soon as I walked in there the first month.
Oh my God. Okay, so that was just the upfront cost first month for all of that. How much was the recurring cost, like every month? How much were you spending?
I was not covering rent. I was paying in change by the end of the year.
Did you have another source of income, another job, another way, or? So this was just all coming from the money that your dad left behind.
Oh yes, and all the dogs that I would have, I couldn't charge more because it was like kind of a set price, and so any kind of business that I could get was just. I was just losing money. And some days would be okay. Some days I'd have 15, 16 dogs there, and it was just it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough.
Okay, so on a good day, how much would you make on a good day?
Gross or net?
Walk me through net.
Okay, net would probably be if I was charging $30 per dog. If I had 10 dogs there, it'd be like $300.
$300.
And that was a good day.
How many good days would you say you had?
Out of the month?
Yeah.
5, 6.
5 or 6 good days.
And most of the days I had 7 or 6 dogs.
Your best days, let's say your best days for the month, you'd probably be bringing in about $1,500 to $1,800 in just those days. And then other days, what's the range here? Like
some days I would have maybe 4 dogs, so it'd be $120.
So anywhere between $120 to $300. Okay. And you were spending, you said that first month was $8,000.
Oh yeah,
right up front.
Yeah, right up front. And I had to pay for the property, renting the property, and all the fencing and the bad labor and the mistakes, and it just kept adding up. And so that first month took the main chunk.
Yeah. So you would need, just based on the math here, just to make up for that first month, just to break even, you would have needed 30 good days to make up for, just 30 good days just to make up for that first chunk that you just gave away right away. Did you do the math on that? Did that sound good to you?
I knew in my head, so I didn't want to ever add it up.
Yeah, you knew, oh my, you got to add them up. You got to add these things up before you jump right in. How much were you spending every other month once the fencing was done? I know that 8K included the fencing, right? And all that stuff. Okay. What was your monthly costs? You know, like kind of break them down for me. I know there's rent and.
Yeah, it was the rent. Luckily, I was training on the side. So that's where I needed to hire someone, but I couldn't find anybody to work for me just because of the dangerous dogs. There was one girl, Denise, who did live literally across the street in these apartment complexes. And she must have saw me struggling. And so she worked at home, and I gave her $10 an hour cash just to sit there and watch the dogs so they wouldn't kill each other.
Okay.
And it was worth it, because then if I would get a dog to train, which was like $70, $80, I would have to take that job, but I would have to leave all these other dogs. And she only worked for me for like 2 or 3 months. But it was I would pay her, like $30 cash a day.
Okay, so about $30 a day.
And I was glad to spend it, because other than that, these dogs would be there by themselves.
Yeah, no. This seems like a good investment. Why did she quit? Just out of curiosity.
It was just the dogs,
dangerous dogs.
Oh yeah, she was an animal lover, but when you have all these crazy dogs that are just jumping on the fence, and it's not really. That's why no one would want to work there. Every other person showed up was like, no. I'm not going to kill. I'm not going to put myself in danger from these guys. She just lived across the street and just needed the money, and she could literally walk across the street.
I like that, like, this is a business where nobody wants to touch it. So it means there's a lot of opportunity, low competition. But I think there's a reason why nobody wants to do this, because you can't find any employees. How much were you bringing in each month?
Good month, maybe 6,000.
6,000 revenue?
Maybe. It was probably more like 4.
Did you keep track of any of this? Like, do you keep track of your finances for this business?
Oh yeah. I, most of it was on my credit card. A lot of it I paid in cash. So.
Okay. No, I meant like did you track all of this in an Excel? Were you making spreadsheets? Were you like analyzing your costs? No.
I just wrote everything down on paper.
What are your other costs? Like, how much were you spending a month in costs?
It was, rent was the big chunk.
How much was rent?
It was close to $1,000.
$1,000? Okay.
And they wanted more. And then, I think the wife felt sorry for me because I trained her dog, and the husband wanted more, but she just got it to like 1,000.
Yeah. It's pretty good, honestly.
Oh yeah, it was real good.
Yeah, it's really good rent.
And that was after me going, I can't pay you guys that much money.
Yeah.
And they had all this property going to waste.
Might as well put dogs on it, am I right?
Sure.
Yeah. So far, we have rent at $1,000, her at $30 a day, the $8,000 up front that you paid. Any other costs?
I got injured there. From one of the dogs. I tore my bicep breaking up a dog fight.
Oh my God.
I didn't have insurance. So that was all out of my pocket.
That's a death sentence in this country.
It pretty much was.
Oh my God. What happened there?
2 pit bulls got in a fight.
Yeah.
And as I was trying to break up the fight, one pulled one way, the other way, and it tore my bicep. And it was extremely painful.
Oh.
And I didn't know it was that bad until I couldn't move my arm, so I had to go to the urgent care a couple of days later.
Oh my God. You're okay now though, right?
Yeah, luckily it healed.
Yeah, that's important. But how much did that set you back?
I just kept putting on my credit card.
Oh no, God, no. I don't like that road we're headed down on. But so, okay. Well, this doesn't look like that bad of a business on paper. You were spending about $1,030 a month plus the initial 8,000, which to break even, a few months at $4,000 a month, you can in 2 or 3 months break even. So what went wrong? Why did
I just kept losing more business because it was an outdoor dog daycare and the heat. And then I finally told the landlords, and I said, I'm dying here. You have to help me with shade. And so I said, can we put up trees? Can we do something? And so they bought a shader from like Home Depot or Lowe's.
Yeah.
And he helped me put it up, but it was just a corner.
Yeah.
So it was just a corner of one of the pens. And
Okay.
It just wasn't enough.
Just wasn't.
No. So people would
Okay.
come by and they would look and then
We have shade and it's a little tarp.
It was literally just a triangle.
Oh.
That was a shade.
Literally, that was it.
And that's all they gave me. And I said, well, when I was telling the landlords, I said, you have to help me more.
Yeah.
No one's coming here because it's in the middle of summer and there's no shade. So they bought me a big plastic swimming pool.
Okay. Did that work out? No.
Not really.
No. So this 4,000, I'm assuming it kept going down.
Oh, yeah.
Kept
It
going
went down significantly. It was down to like 2 dogs, 3 dogs a day.
And so at what point were you kind of just like, this isn't it? Because I'm worried you were racking up debt on your credit
Oh,
card.
yeah. I got in service debt. It just kept going higher and higher.
Oh, geez. At what point were you like, I got to stop this. This is not working out.
I guess finally from that, one of the last dog fights, I had 2 or 3 dogs left. And there was a German Shepherd and a Pitbull, and they got in this massive fight. And I was trying to break it up with a torn bicep, and I was going nowhere.
Your bicep was still torn?
Oh, yeah, because I couldn't afford the surgery.
Torn bicep, aggressive dogs, and you were losing money and you were just still going at it, but you were just like, this isn't it. You can't keep sustaining this, right? It's not a sustainable business model. How much did you walk away with? What did you make after all this was said and done? I'm assuming a decent amount to kind of help fund your next thing, right?
I didn't walk away with hardly anything, but, I was still, I had 8 credit cards.
Wait, 8? 8 credit cards? When you say 8, did you open some of these while you were...
Oh, of course. Oh, I had to. Yeah.
Oh my God. How many did you open to keep this business going?
I had probably 4 of my own, and I ended up getting 4 more.
You got 4 more credit cards while you were running this.
And don't forget the injury. So one of those had to go...
Right on a credit card.
Oh, that was all injury.
Oh man, that's not good. You don't want to be opening 4 credit cards on a business where the business model itself is inherently slowly starting to show its failures and its shortcomings. Walk me through those credit cards. So you have 8, and what's the utilization here? Like 20% on each, 10% on each, or are any maxed out? Please don't tell me.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Actually, got a call from, I don't know how credit card companies know that you have a lot of these cards.
Yeah.
And I actually got a call one day from one of the representatives, and they said, you have 8 cards. I don't know how you're going to sustain. And she said, I told her how much rent I was paying at my house, my apartment, and at the dog daycare. And she said, you're not going to make it. And I said, well, I'm going to keep trying. And she said, well, is there a cheaper place you could move to live? And I said, yeah, heaven. And she hung up on me.
I mean, you did not need a credit card rep to tell you that you're not going to make it like that at that rate. You did not need her telling you that, but she hung up on you. Oh my God. How did you go about sort of paying these down? Okay, so the doggy daycare thing, done.
It finally folded.
Finally folded. What are you doing? You have these 8 credit cards. You have this debt. How many of your credit cards are maxed out?
5.
5 out of the 8?
And they weren't like high. Most of them are like a $4,000 limit. You know, some of them are only $2,000, thankfully.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. That's not that bad.
So when you open a new credit card, they only give you credit for like $1,500.
A certain limit based on your.
I just maxed it out.
You just.
I would just have to.
Why did you feel like you had to? Was it because of the business, sustaining the business, or why did you feel like you had to?
I just knew I had to try no matter what.
Oh, even if it meant like just digging yourself into that
I
hole.
just figured I would get out of it somehow. You know, something would happen.
But I mean, the something would be not taking out credit cards and not spending money on them. That's the something. And paying the ones you have down fully to get out of that debt. But you didn't do that. You kept going because you kept going. Okay. The dog business just folded. You have these 8 cards. What are you doing? What were you doing?
I had to try to sell the fencing that I put up.
The fencing. It all starts and ends with that. Okay.
And then the landlords moved, and the owner of the property told me that I had 2 days to get all the fencing down. And I said, I can't take it down in 2 days. This took weeks to put up.
Yeah.
And he said, well, if you don't take it down, I'm just going to take it myself. And I said, well, you have to help me out. And so I put it for sale, and then I had to give it away for free.
All that fencing that you spent so much money and time on. Oh, that's gonna just be like beaten down.
Oh,
like,
it was
at
awful.
That point,
it was, a guy showed up. He looked at all of it. He had a big old truck, and he had a helper. And they got the jackhammer out, and they started taking out all the cement posts.
That must have been a field day for him, though.
Oh, he was loving it. It was new. It was not even a year old. It was like 9 months old, 10 months old.
God, I don't know. I don't know about fencing, but that sounds like good fence right there.
That was great. Yeah, he did great. I don't know what he did with it, but I just knew I had to get out on that Sunday, and he showed up.
So what did you do after? How did you go about, like, did you have a plan? Like, what was your next, were you going to get a job? Did you want to get a business? I mean, you must have been wanting to tackle this debt that you had, the 8 credit cards and the hole you're kind of in, right?
Well, once I didn't have to pay rent there on the land, that took a lot. That helped a lot.
Yeah.
You know, because then it was just my apartment rent.
Okay.
And so I just decided to do what I knew, and I just started hiking and training dogs. So I would have to get as much as I could, you know, handing out business cards and. You know, a lot of people at the dog park were happy that it folded. They were like, you know, you were dying there, and I mean, it was cursed.
So kind of putting it's a bad example, but a dog out of its misery, kind of.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It was put to sleep.
Yeah.
Just because it just couldn't sustain. You know, it couldn't.
Okay, how much were you paying in rent? Because you stayed at the same apartment.
Oh yeah, and I'm still there. I'm at the same place.
Okay, how much was the rent?
It was like $1,200-$1,300.
$1,300. And at that point, you weren't bringing anything other than, because the business just folded.
Oh yeah.
And how much were you bringing in walking dogs here and there?
I had to take anything and everything, and I was selling my own stuff. I was selling things on any website I could.
Okay.
Just to, you know, I was hoping to sell the fencing. I thought I'd be able to recoup, but I didn't. You know, I had 2 days, and I put it down for like nothing, and I didn't get any offers. And so the owner said, "You got to get this out, or it's mine." And I thought, you know, I was defeated. Yeah. But this was the last bit of pride that I had left.
Yeah, you're like, I'm not going to give it to you,
yeah,
dickhead. I'm going to give it to someone else for free.
Correct. So that was a plus, because he was standing there as this guy and his helper got all that. And I just looked at him and I was like, you didn't get it.
You know what? I support that decision, actually. I actually wanted him to kind of eat that too. So I like that. I support that one. Now, did you think about moving somewhere cheaper while all this was happening, or getting like roommates or something to split this? Because this is a lot for someone who has 8 cards and isn't bringing much in.
I was hoping just to live on the dog daycare place. They had a barn there, and I really seriously thought of living there. I I thought, I could get rid of my apartment and just live there with all the dogs.
Yeah.
But the landlord said, you can't live here.
The new guy, right?
I know the original landlords.
Oh, the original ones. Okay. But you wanted to live with the dangerous dogs?
I had no choice, and they all knew me. So as a trainer,
Well, two of them tried ripping you apart once.
You just becoming, the main one. And you can, they would mainly want to rip themselves up, but
if you get in the middle of it, they wouldn't mind.
they don't care.
You.
That's why I couldn't break up that the very last fight there was with the German Shepherd, a big German Shepherd and a big pit bull. And I was trying everything with one arm trying to break that up, and it was just both dogs got hurt bad. And I got hurt.
God, you could have been a ref for the UFC, I think. Making more and probably equally dangerous job, but that's crazy. When you lost that business and you were kind of just down on your luck and you gave the fencing away, all of that, did you ever consider moving somewhere cheaper? No. Doing any? No.
I just,
no roommates, the 12 or 1,300, that just seems crushing when you're not bringing a lot in.
I mean, it's a one bedroom, so it's a real small place. So you
yeah.
have to live in the kitchen or the living room.
It's better than living with the dangerous dogs, which you were contemplating.
But, I figured dogs don't talk back as much as people do. So I figured if I got a terrible roommate, it would make my life worse. Cut rent in half, but I've had too many bad roommates in the first place. And knowing my luck, I'd get another one, and it would just be worse.
What happened after that?
After I lost everything, I had to start the business that I had. Mm-hmm. So I just kept walking and hiking, including the bad dogs.
Yeah.
A lot of them weren't there anymore. And the very last fight with the German Shepherd, he wanted me to pay this money for and I said, no, he attacked this other dog.
Yeah.
And he just gave up. So he didn't pay me the money he owed me.
Did you have liability insurance?
I couldn't get anybody to cover me, and I couldn't afford it anyway.
Oh my. So you did not have any liability insurance for that business?
I was asked a lot of times.
I bet you were.
All the time.
Yeah.
A lot of the owners would say, do you have insurance? And I just said, no.
Oh my God. That's insane. Were you paying your taxes and everything?
Oh yeah. I was paying taxes.
Nice. Okay. Well, I can see how that liability insurance bit could have bit of a pickle in that situation.
I couldn't afford it.
Nobody was insuring you either.
No.
Yeah, I can imagine the rates for something like that would be, holy shit, that would be insane. Hey, I run a dangerous dog take care business on my own. Nobody wants to work for me, but you guys want to insure this? Yeah, I can see that being pretty bad, especially after you got injured. If they ever found out about that injury. What happened after that? How did you get into the next business?
The next business, I met this trainer.
Okay.
And she was training aggressive dogs like I was.
Wait, still with the aggressive dogs?
Oh yeah, that was mainly only thing I was getting.
Nick, you didn't learn your lesson the first time around? You're back at it?
It's because nobody wants to train them, so I was one of the only ones that did.
You're like a crisis counselor. Like, it's a hard job that no one wants to do, but you just keep doing it.
It's social worker.
Exactly. Okay, so you met the trainer. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so she was also training bad dogs, and we just had this commonality. We just met through a mutual friend, and she had this idea for dog treats, and I thought that was a great idea. So I thought of the name. It was Samson Super Snacks. We thought of my own, which of course she didn't want to do. But this is just the beginning of where we started butting heads.
So the bickering's already started, and you guys...
It was the first week.
At the name. First week. Did you see that as a red flag? By this point, you got to start seeing the red flags, Nick, right?
I just trust too much. And she was a word of mouth person.
But the word of mouth screwed you with
with the fence business. But it sounded like such a great idea. Samson Super Snacks. And she was making all the ingredients at home.
Okay.
The problem was, she was making the products at home, I was still doing the dog business training without the facility, thankfully, because that helped a lot. So I started building up a little bit more capital because I was working every day.
Okay, good.
And the treats were great. They were just overpriced. And so every pet store we went into didn't want to take a chance.
Didn't want to do it. The margins just...
It was just too much. And so I was telling my business partner, I was like, can we drop these down a little bit more?
Yeah.
And she's like, but we're barely making it now. And I said, well, that's the only way we're going to get into the stores.
How bad were the margins? I mean, how much was it costing you guys to make it versus what you wanted to sell it for?
Well, she did a lot of it on her own. I got to give her credit. She made all the products at her house.
Okay.
And I would make some phone calls to find, because a lot of the ingredients were like pumpkin. And so, anybody who was getting rid of pumpkins, they would just pretty much say, that was like the main ingredients. And she was doing a lot on her own.
Yeah.
And then we just kept fighting, and you're not helping me with the kitchen work. And I said, well, you live in South Central LA. I live in, where I live. I'm not driving all that way to help you. And I said, but I will, but I still have to. We're not making any money on this, so I still have to train dogs and hike dogs and walk dogs.
Yeah.
And so it got to the point where we just didn't talk anymore. We just stopped talking.
Your business partner, the person you're doing this business with, you just stopped talking.
Yeah, we just stopped talking. And so I just kept calling her, and then finally got a hold of her, and she said, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. And I said, yeah, well, you haven't talked to me in like a week.
It sounds more like a moody girlfriend than a business partner.
I should have known. I should have known better, but the only good thing about that is it had a cool name. It had a great logo.
Yeah.
And the dogs liked the snacks. It was just overpriced, and no store would carry us. And so
you guys couldn't lower the costs anyway?
We kept talking that over and over. And so, with the bags, and she was doing everything at her house. I was just doing all the footwork. I was going to every pet store and presenting them with it. And, once I'd tell them the cost and how much they would have to do the markup, they were like, well, I could sell these milk bones for $2, and I can't sell your treats for 10 and have my markup. So it's like $15. And you're like, no. So
I mean, if it's organic, like
which
homemade, they Whole Foods. They love that overpriced stuff. They'll eat that up. I mean, if you can spin it and be like non-GMO, cruelty-free, that whole thing. But I'm sure you tried, right?
I tried every store. I was just driving to every store and calling and talking and just taking these samples, and just nobody bit. Nobody bit.
How much money did you guys both put into this?
Luckily, it wasn't a lot. It was just a few thousand. It was like maybe 1,500.
But a few thousand when you have those like 8 credit cards and you're in that situation and you're working your ass off every day, that's a lot of money if you're in that kind of situation, At this point, what is the debt looking like? I'm assuming those 8 credit cards are still there, right?
Oh, it got down to like 6.
Okay.
Because
good news.
We were still working. I was still working 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And so, and I didn't have the overhead with the dog daycare anymore, with the dog ranch, the Pitbull daycare.
Okay.
And so one of the cards I got rid of, paid them off, canceled it.
Good.
And so it finally got down to like 6 cards.
6 cards. Okay.
And so, and I did have some money. Then again, I met this guy who...
Oh, no. Don't tell me word of mouth. Don't.
Word of mouth.
Oh, no. You got to stop listening to those mouths. You got to find a new source, but go...
So he had this broad idea. He asked me how much money I had. And I was paying off the credit cards, and I still had, it was like $1,000. And he said, would you like to triple that? And I said, yeah, absolutely, I'd like to triple that. Oh. And I said, what's your plan? And I should have kind of, I didn't think it was the greatest.
When they say that, you got to hear the pyramid scheme, like pitch playing in your head, like...
Well, his was cocaine. So he bought...
It's a different kind of pyramid scheme.
Yeah. So he took my $1,000, and he bought $1,000 worth of cocaine,
Oh my God.
which I saw, put it
Yeah.
out on the table. I went to his house, Echo Park, and he put it out on his table. And I wasn't, he was tasting it, and I said, no, I just want to make the $3,000 that you told me.
Yeah.
Then it just all went south. I didn't hear from him for a couple of days. Kept calling him.
Yeah, I'm surprised you did you hear from him eventually?
Yeah, I finally got a hold of him,
Well, I'm surprised you did, but yeah.
and he said, "You're not going to believe what happened."
Oh boy.
And I said, "Why? I hope that you triple the money." He goes, "Well, I had the coke. I got into the hot tub
No.
with the coke, and I fell asleep, and it all dissolved."
Wait. No, are you serious?
No, that's what he told me. And so I said, "Well, what do I do now?" And he said, "Well, there's nothing to sell."
That's just not some pocket candy. You say I accidentally walked into the pool with my Snickers bar. That's $1,000 worth of cocaine.
Which I think was not the truth. I think he snorted all.
Yeah, I don't think. I just thought about it. I'm pretty sure $1,000 worth of cocaine. Not that I know what that looks like, but I'm sure you can't stuff it into swim shorts easily. That's the dumbest, most low-effort lie I've ever heard from someone. At least he could have said I got into an accident and it spilled on the road,
or the police confiscated.
Or the police, something a little bit better than I went swimming with $1,000.
And he fell asleep in the hot tub.
Walk into the hot tub with the coke?
That's what he said.
That's already dumb. I don't even need you to fall asleep. That's already where the mistake was made, was you walking into pool with $1,000 worth of cocaine. And then you fall asleep. That's not even the worst part. I don't even care that he fell asleep. He already... Oh boy. Don't swim with cocaine. How much did you have left at the end of that? Like the 2 businesses and then the coke guy. What did you have left?
Hardly anything. It's enough to pay rent and just to get by.
So when you were bringing money in, every day you're bringing some kind of money in. Walk me through, like, you get the check, you get the money, what is it being spent on? How do you go about prioritizing, like, okay, number 1, this is what I'm going to spend it on, 2, 3, and then it's gone?
Just rent for sure.
Okay.
Utility bills.
Yeah.
Cutting into the credit card debts.
Good, very good.
Those 3 things, and just food and just the basic necessities. So
Okay.
I couldn't have any other expenses because all the fails.
Car, did you have car payments?
Yeah, and luckily no car payment.
Okay.
Had to have an old beat up SUV that luckily still drives.
Okay. So Japanese, I'm assuming, if it's still
it's
driving.
actually a Ford.
It's a Ford. Okay, the Ford, the old Fords can do
Ford.
it.
It's definitely an old Ford. It's not a new Ford. It's a 20-year-old truck.
At least you're not whipping around Beamers or Mercedes.
No. I always have to have room for dogs in the back.
Okay.
So I'll have to get an SUV.
I like to think that's not the only reason you went for that, but... And at this point, once rent was being paid for, how much was left for number 2 and number 3 credit card sustenance?
Hardly anything.
Yeah, it sounds like there wouldn't be much left.
No, it wasn't much. And luckily there's always bad dogs to train and walk. There's a lot of those bad dogs out here, especially in Los Angeles. There's a lot of people.
There's a lot of bad dogs out there.
Tons of them. So I would always get the call. Because most people wouldn't. Most people would say, call this guy. He'll take any dog. Which I would.
You became known as the any dog guy. Oh. Mm-hmm. See, I feel like you could, if you twisted this and you started taking care of poodles and like whatever Beverly Hills type of people have walking around on Rodeo Drive, if you start taking care of those, could have been a whole different story here.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. But you like the dangerous dogs, I feel like.
It was volunteering at the Pitbull rescue that I had.
Yeah.
That once that is what you're known as, you don't get away from it.
That's insane. How much was left after you were done paying rent for credit cards, food, et cetera, et cetera? How much did you have left?
$160.
$160. Maybe. That's all you had for... And what were your payments for these credit cards?
Oh, the minimum, just 83, 36, just paying anything I could. So, of course, out of all of them, you just pay the minimum just to sustain them, just to sustain
But just because you could only pay the minimum,
That's
right?
it. Oh, yeah. I couldn't do anything more,
Yeah. What's your credit score?
It has gone up after me paying all these bills. So
Okay.
it's in the 700s.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, it was when you get in this, have so many cards and you just slowly work into them, your credit score goes way up.
No, I can imagine. When you were at 8 credit cards, that must have been the low point, huh?
Oh, yeah, it was.
If 5 of them maxed out too, that can't be a good credit score.
No,
Right.
it was terrible.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I didn't even want to check. I didn't, something you just don't want to see.
But at least you're aware, you have the sensibility that you gotta pay it off.
Oh yeah,
Like,
I always had that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
never would ever think about filing bankruptcy like a lot of my band members have and friends.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll never do that.
So you and this person that you keep fighting with, and you pretty much fought week 1, go ahead and start a dog food business with your own money again, word of mouth person again, and you're putting up all this money. You just came off the heels of a failed business, and all these red flags are popping up. What happened between the two of you? How did this fall apart?
I'm just guessing that since we both dealt with, and still do, with dangerous dogs, I think it just gets to your personality. And when you're dealing with all these dangerous dogs, it comes out in your personality sometimes. And so when we're dealing with business, she would be talking, we need to do this. And I'd say, well, why don't we do this? And it would get, every single meeting was fighting. Every single meeting was fighting. We could say this way, and she goes, well, how am I going to make all this stuff at my house? Well, then show up to my house and help me make it.
Yeah.
I said, you have like 8 bad dogs there. I'm not going there with, when you deal with bad dogs, they're really only loyal to you.
Yeah.
And these were her own personal dogs. And I could deal with the bad dogs, but going to her house and helping her with these ingredients in a trailer
In a trailer?
In a trailer. She lived in a trailer. Had zero interest to me. And I was still working. I'm still working with the bad dogs.
Yeah, you got your own thing going on, yeah.
And so she was going with him, come over here and help me in South Central and help me make up these snacks. And don't forget, I have 8 dogs that no one could be around. And I thought, me with her was bad. With 8 bad dogs and cooking in a trailer just seemed like a horrible idea.
And then instead of, having good business meetings, instead of having good, productive, fruitful business meetings, you guys were having like UFC pre-matches.
Every time.
Just going at each other's throats.
Every single time. I mean, it's a wonder. And she's a big, tough girl. It's a wonder that we
I think you have to be when you're dealing with
you
aggressive
have
dogs
no
in this line of work.
You have no choice, So we fought every single time.
And this wasn't something you noticed at the beginning and you're like, let me find out who this person is, how she lives, her personality before I get into this. You kind of discovered all these things as we were going along.
As you go.
Was there an event? Was there something that happened that kind of you're like, this is the final straw. I can't work with this. What made you see all these red flags are enough to be like, that's it. I'm going to call it. This isn't going to work.
I think when I was taking all these samples to these pet stores and not being able to do that. And then she would get so mad that I wasn't doing enough. And I said, I'm doing this every day. And she's making the treats in the trailer.
Yeah.
And when that finally happened, it just came to a boiling point. No one was buying them. We had all this product and not selling it. And, I wasn't helping her. And in between training all these dogs, in between her living with these 8 crazy dogs.
8? She was living with 8 dogs in a trailer.
I think she moved, but I think she still has some of them left. I'm sure she does. And in a trailer also in...
Again in a trailer with dogs. What happened when it all boiled over?
Oh, we just let it die. We just let it die, I remember taking a lot of the snacks because ones, and I just gave them away. I went to the dog park and I would leave them on the picnic benches out there for other dogs to try.
Nice.
Other than me trying to, you just can't, when you put in so much effort and it's like, I could sell these for $3. It wasn't even worth it.
Yeah.
And there was so many. And so I would just give them away. And so did she. She did the same thing. I think she did try to sell some because she would do the farmers markets and things like that. So I'm sure she probably just to get rid of them, because there were so many. You know, and it was.
Yeah.
Did
you guys ever get physical like in any of those fights? Or?
Well, it was never anything like that, but we would get in each other's face. I would get to that point, and luckily it was always at the dog park. So I figured if we were going to be fighting, and people would back away from us anyway, they would see us arguing, and they knew the dogs I worked with, they knew the dogs she worked with. So to them, it was total entertainment. They were like, this is going to be great. This big old crazy girl and this guy.
This guy's giving away free fences, free dog food, now free entertainment?
Yeah, I was a great source of entertainment. They loved it,
That's insane.
So we would just be at the dog park arguing in the corner and people would just be watching, and just be enjoying the entire show. And she didn't care. She's like that. But I would go to that dog park a lot more.
You're like, this is my dog park. Let's take it somewhere else.
And I didn't even do that at that point because it didn't even matter.
Yeah, not in front of the dogs.
Yeah. But everybody got a bunch of free dog treats. So
that's all they care about. They got the entertainment, they got the drama, and the dog treats.
Dog treats. But we all had the plan. It looked so good on paper.
What did you guys plan? I'm just curious. What did you put on paper to where it looked good? Because it looks like the timing, you guys are far apart. Her personality, aggressive. You're a lot more trusting. What looked good on paper?
Her making the product in her trailer looked great. That we didn't have to rent a place to do it. Because I just got out of renting the place that I did. And I thought if she could do that in-house.
Not paying for facility, not paying for other labor.
That would help so much.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But you guys didn't have any connections with any manufacturers, didn't have any connections with any retailers. Did you test the market? Did you do market research to see if there's room for you, viability at a certain price point? None of that? Ifs
and buts, of course.
Yeah.
If the product was less expensive, could have perhaps worked. It was just the ingredients she was putting in there. She had to have so many different ingredients, and just finding them and buying them would just, if it was like one of the guys at the pet store said, he goes, if you could sell this to me for $3, I could sell it for $6.
How many dogs were you guys taking care of, and what was the fighting looking like?
It was a lot. She was having her own dogs, which I never brought up. But she would have 15 bad dogs. And I would have...
15? And these are bad dogs.
Oh, yeah. These were not getting along with people and dogs. And I was having 10 of my own.
So 25 dogs between the two of you. What's your situation now? Credit cards, living situation? How are you doing now?
Not investing in any other business, thankfully.
Okay.
It's just me and the dogs. That's it.
Just you and the dogs.
Getting out of debt.
And
so I'm thinking 2024 is going to look better. Because so many bad years that I've had in the past.
Yeah. Well, let's make that happen. How is your debt? You have those 6 credit cards right now, right?
It's lower. It's definitely lower than 6.
It's lower than 6
Yes,
now.
I once the dog treat business went,
Yeah.
I was able to just not put money into the ingredients anymore. It was just me. So now that I'm not investing in any of this, yeah, it's helping a lot.
Okay, so you've been able to pay those guys down.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic. That's good to hear. And you're still living at the same place right
I'm
now?
trying to move out just because the rent keeps going up and the place is not getting fixed and it's freezing cold and my utility bills are through the roof because you have to have 3 space heaters and the regular heaters. So
Yeah.
and the landlord's not going to fix anything. So
Okay. What's the biggest thing you want to accomplish in terms of your finances this year? Pay off the credit cards, go somewhere cheaper, better, or what is it that you want to do?
probably find a better place to live.
Find a better place to live?
For so long, and and I know the landlord's not going to do anything about it, But
Yeah.
the rent goes up every year,
Yeah.
and it goes up 8.8%, and so
The maximum legal allowed, I'm assuming, every year, right?
that's my priority.
Yeah.
I definitely need to find a better place.
So you have less than 6 credit cards. We don't have 8. We don't have 6. Thankfully, we're working those guys down. You're looking for a better place. You're not jumping into
No.
crazy dog businesses anymore. You're done with that, hopefully for a while, right? You've learned some lessons, I'm assuming, from a lot from working with those people. And a lot of the times you can learn lessons from books, but I think when it comes to business, the best lessons you learn are when you just jump in and when you're doing them. So you did that. You jumped in.
Failed.
Failed, yeah.
Got a great lesson in life.
Yeah.
Both of them.
Got a lot of great lessons, and it sounds like, it honestly sounds like you understand a lot. You understand that you learned those lessons. You have takeaways. You have good priorities. I'm assuming you want to pay those credit cards off.
Oh yeah.
Right?
That's oh yeah. Willing down. It's like this big giant rock.
Yeah. More than the minimum, right?
yeah.
You're hitting more than the minimum?
Now that I don't have the overhead with these businesses,
Yeah.
it's just that's all I can focus on.
Yeah. Stay away from the dog businesses for a while. Unless we're going into less dangerous dogs. Maybe we're doing cute, cuddly dog treats for rich, prissy dogs in Beverly Hills.
That'd be great. If anybody knows those, let me know.
Less liability. You don't need liability insurance, and if you do, they might actually cover you.
Sure.
But good credit score, you're paying off the debt. That's all really good to hear. One big thing I would advise you is start with the credit card that you have the highest interest on. Pay that one off first. Pay that one off first and just kind of keep working your way down. The worst thing you want to do is open up another credit card. Don't open one up. You have more than enough. Just pay these ones down. Just focus on paying more than the minimum and paying off the highest interest ones. The biggest problem is people getting into the spiral where they rack up and, 1 week can just ruin all the progress if you put it on the wrong credit card and if you don't pay it down right away. Just keep that in mind. Try to think of stuff like that, like little places where you can save money. Gas, close, map out certain apartments and your clients and the distances and how much money you can save on gas, and all these little things will eventually add up. You're on the right track. As long as you don't go back to a bad dog business, aggressive dog business, leave that behind, and you don't deal with shady people who take who take cocaine into hot tubs. You avoid those kinds of people. I think you're on a good track to be out of debt and be somewhere good really soon. Just little changes, man. Well, thank you, Nick.
Thank you very
Appreciate it. Appreciate you coming down here and talking with us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for the information.
Yeah, no, thank you.